Finally, here it is, the truth from General Motors. They finally admitted what most of us have known all along. Of course, the GM fans would argue that it was all wrong. We didn't have any idea what we were talking about. But now, well, Mary Barra has said it herself. Many automakers, such as General Motors, have financial divisions that rely on the residual value of their vehicles. But if a huge percentage of the vehicles they manufacture and sell fall in value because no one actually wants them, well, there's going to be massive losses. If you combine that with the current admission from General Motors that it does not make a profit on its EVs, in fact, it's currently recurring substantial losses on them, then logically speaking, it will be very difficult for GM to make this transition, and it's going to cost them billions of dollars. Realistically, Tesla actually has a bigger lead than I think anyone really understands. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you to our supporters on Patreon and also our members. Our members have grown this month, and Patreon supporters. Great to have you all. If you want to be a member, you do get access to some of our videos a few days in advance. I'll put a link in the description below. And if you want to be a Patreon, that'd be awesome too. And I'll put a link to our Patreon page as well. So a lot of people have basically said, Viking, how do you even know General Motors doesn't make a profit on EVs? How do you know this? Well, it's pretty obvious. And for clarity's sake, GM have just said it today. They said they plan to make a profit in 2025 on their EVs. So the thing is, GM plans on selling hundreds of thousands of EVs before 2025 at a loss. So they said originally they'd sell 400,000 EVs next year. Obviously, that isn't going to happen. They've changed their tune on that within the last few weeks because apparently they couldn't get enough staff to ramp up their battery manufacturing. So yeah, because GM basically rely on one battery supplier, which I believe is a very, very bad decision. And I've mentioned this a number of times. Therefore, they're at the whims of that battery company, which is a joint venture with themselves and LG Chem. You would have thought General Motors would have learned from that mistake of having a joint venture with LG Chem and putting LG Chem batteries in the Bolt and the Bolt EV. They clearly haven't. Now, even if GM went and said, you know what, we want to continue that, we still think it could work, but we're also going to partner with Goshon High-Tech or CATL or BYD or Tesla or someone else, Panasonic, I don't know. Because we need two different supply sources of batteries, you would think, hey, that's a good decision. But GM haven't really done that. So that, to me, is another substantial risk for the company. Now, GM has just told investors that the company expects its electric vehicle program will be profitable in 2025, and it's targeting sales of 1 million EVs in that year. Although it originally said that would be in the US, but now it says 1 million worldwide. However, keep that in context. The US is GM's primary market. I mean, by 2025, I'd estimate that at least 75% of their global sales will be in the US alone. So that would mean around 750,000 at least of their EVs would be manufactured in the US in 2025. Now, GM is saying they're going to explain to investors on the 17th of November how the automaker can cover investments for battery plants and assembly and build Ultium batteries programs margins. Executives plan to detail GM's push to go from selling just 44,000 EVs this year in the US so far at a loss, yes, they've admitted at a loss, to profitably becoming one of the nation's biggest EV producers. Now, apparently this has been claimed from GM insiders. They don't want to say who they are because they don't want to lose their jobs. So it's sort of rumor in a way, but everyone's reporting this, automotive news, electric, everyone's reporting on this as fact. After years of development, GM is signaling it's ready to start producing EVs in high volume with a new battery pack to grow sales and start lowering costs. And it is true, if they're making more of these, I mean, the reality is economies of scale is a fact. The more batteries, the more cars they make, the electric, the cheaper each one of these should be to produce. GM wants to make the case. This is what they're saying. They will be soon one of the top players in the industry's push to replace internal combustion engines with electric powertrains. And realistically, what they're saying in some ways is more compelling than Ford. Why is it more compelling than Ford? Because GM are more all in than Ford are. And that's true. GM is saying by 2035, they won't be making any cars at all that are not electric. All of them will be electric, every single one. And if you go to like GM message boards, you go to GM forums, GM websites, customers are angry. They are angry. They've been voicing their anger now for many, many months. Ever since GM announced this, I'm sure Mary Barra has received many letters personally. I'm sure everyone has contacted her who hates this idea and made it very well known. A lot of these people are very angry, aggressive. A lot of them are probably rednecks. They're very emotional people, and they're very, very vocal. And they've made it very clear to General Motors they're not happy. Now, I mean, these people are, I think, ridiculous. They've got 13 years to accept change, to accept the future. That's 13 years away. So the point here is at least General Motors are not doing what Ford's saying. Ford's saying they're still going to be making gasoline-powered vehicles in the US in 2035. At the same time, the road to selling EVs in big numbers and doing it profitably in 3 years underscores just how far behind General Motors are in comparison to Tesla, which earned $5.5 billion in net income last year selling only EVs. Plus $5.5 billion is a lot better than minus, we don't know. GM won't tell us. It would be good to know, wouldn't it? If you're an investor in this company, I don't see how you could invest in this company. I just don't see how you could. I've invested actually, but $5 just for the fun of it. I don't see how you can invest in a company that won't tell you how much money they lose on their product. It's the future of the industry. I mean, seriously, it'd be like a company saying, well, we sell this and this. We make profit selling this. Eventually no one's going to want these. And we make a loss selling this. This is what we know the future is this. We make a loss on this, but we can't tell you how much. We're not going to disclose that information, but just trust us. In 3 years from now, don't worry, we'll make a profit selling these. We'll explain how. The thing is, wouldn't you want to know if you're going to invest in this company how much loss they currently make and how much profit they'll make in 2025? You'd want to know. You want to know those numbers, and GM doesn't disclose those. And don't get me wrong, GM are one of which company in the world discloses the losses they make on EVs? I mean, Neo, Xpeng, they do. They have to because that's all they sell. But which legacy automotive company currently says this is how much money we make a loss on selling electric cars? None of them do that. That's why personally I think you're crazy investing in those companies, not knowing how much loss they make on the production of those vehicles. Now, GM's biggest piece of the plan that they announced last year is to double revenue by 2030 to $280 billion. That's a very, very optimistic target. And this relies on two things. One of those is to grow market share by creating a lineup of electric vehicles that sells in parallel to internal combustion vehicles. And the other is to sell you on subscription services. GM is saying that about half their revenue will come from subscription services. I'm very skeptical on that. I'm not skeptical of GM's ability to produce EVs. I do think they'll be able to do it. I'm skeptical on how much profit they can make on EVs and whether or not they can make more than $100 billion of profit from subscription services, or not profit, but revenue from subscription services. That seems to me to be exceptionally optimistic. Can they catch Tesla? I mean, Wall Street is saying they can. Many, many people in Wall Street, investment so-called experts, are saying in 2029, these are the numbers they're giving. In 2029, GM will be making twice as many EVs as Tesla. That to me seems to be something that the SEC should look into, these comments. Who is making these comments, why they're making them. I've talked about who these people are, what they represent. They're representing big investment banks. Why they're making these comments. I mean, are these things even remotely believable? And why are they believable? The 2021 Investor Day was a really big deal and a transformative event, said Morningstar Inc. analyst David Whiston. It was very bold. The stock didn't shoot up though because it's all very long term. The next event will probably keep the story arc going. GM is working to use its large network of plants and suppliers to catch Tesla's dominant position in EVs. GM's biggest parts supply for its EVs is Hyundai Grobus. Not many people know that. Bank of America analyst John Murphy forecasts GM could pass Tesla in EV sales in 2025, 3 years from now, right? When they're hoping to make a profit. I mean, GM is admitting they're not going to make a profit on EVs in 2024. And they're going to make a profit in 2025, and the same year they'll surpass Tesla. That seems to me to be awfully coincidental, that miraculously, the same exact year they finally turn a profit selling EVs, they'll surpass Tesla. The reason that analysts in Wall Street are saying that this will happen is because GM will offer more models and have more production by then. They hope, or they think. Now, the reality is, right, this has already been proven to be pretty bogus. It has. The reason I say that, what did GM say? GM said next year they produce 400,000 EVs. They've just changed their targets. They said, oh, we'll do that in 2 years now. Did the Bank of America come out and say, oh, sorry, we made a mistake because now we've learned from GM that their targets now are totally different to what we thought they were? No, they didn't. They kept their targets the same. It doesn't seem to me as though these analysts actually listen to what people from the automotive companies are saying. While GM expects its EV program to start generating profit in 3 years' time, the battery-powered models will still have lower margins than its internal combustion engine vehicles, they have said. Profits from the existing lineup will continue funding development of EVs and the more than $2 billion a year GM spends on its Cruise unit. Now, GM say they're going to explain how they will boost power density in their Ultium batteries by 60%. Seriously, that's what they say, 60%, and take out costs. And they also say that these batteries are going to be 60% cheaper. 60% more energy density and 60% cheaper. I mean, these claims are actually going way further than what Tesla's ever made, about 4680 batteries. GM is saying we're going to do way better than Tesla. That's clearly what they're saying. Come on. I mean, 60% decrease in cost, 60% increase in energy density. Those two things together to me seem incredibly implausible. Could they achieve that by, say, 2030? I think it's very, very possible. In fact, I would say likely. Are they going to achieve that by 2026 or 2025? Zero chance. The thing is, right, they're saying the second generation Ultium batteries, which will go into production in the next few years, will drop costs another 40%, making batteries free. No, I'm kidding. But you see my point. The batteries cost, the cost declines that GM are claiming just seem to be hyperbolic. They seem to be exaggeratory and just really unlikely. Now, here's what the Bank of America said. GM won't sell at the prices of Teslas, so maybe they won't match the profits. But they should be able to show good margins. If Tesla can do it, there's no reason General Motors, Ford, and others can't do it. They're just behind on product lineup and manufacturing. And, well, about 50 other things as well. Yeah, I suggest don't listen to these so-called automotive industry experts from Wall Street. They have zero idea what they're talking about. Can GM actually make a profit on EVs? Eventually, yes. Can they do what the investment analysts are saying? Absolutely not. That is totally fanciful. Let me know your thoughts, though, in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.